Hello and welcome along once again to another episode of Algorand Developer Office Hours. I'm your host, Ryan Fox, and I'm thrilled you're here building on Algorand. So today we're going to be focused on QR codes. And my guest today is Mohammed Ghiassi. He is the developer behind the Algorand QR code library, and he's going to show us how you can take QR codes, get them generated within your web app so that your dApp can then use them and present them to end users so that they can be scanned by the Algorand mobile wallet and make it really easy for users to interface with your dApp. So without further ado, I want to bring up Mohammed and get him to introduce himself and take us through his library just the same. So welcome, Mohammed. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Ryan. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Algorand Developers Office Hour. My name is Mohammed Ghiassi. You can call me MG. I'm a technology architect as well as a software developer. And I recently have joined the great community of Algorand because I'm keen to have a better, more prosperous, and of course, greener future. So, shall we get started with the subject of the day, the QR codes? QR codes, or quick response codes, are with us since 1994. They've been doing their jobs in total silence, and we've been taking them for granted so much that we barely even notice them anymore. But one thing for certain, they are there doing their job, and we need them. Here at the right side of your screens, you can find one. Here's a QR code that happened to contain a piece of information that to be my contact information. So if you scan it with your official Algorand wallet QR code scanner, you will find my address and my email as the label, so you can save my contact in case some of you have some million algos that don't know what to do with. This might come handy. So let me give you some more examples on what are exactly QR codes and how we can use them. Think about some special day that you want to send some algos for your beloved ones. And either you can ask them for their wallet addresses and then send them some payments and send them some receipts, or you can do it with a QR code, put some smiley face picture in the middle of the QR code and send it to your beloved ones with fixed amount of payment transactions. How's that sound? As another example, think about that you own a shop and you want to accept algos. So in one scenario, you can tell every and each customer about how much their order will cost them and they can pay you in algos, or you can use a QR code that does it and says it all. Not bad for non-developer usage, huh? Let me go to the next slide and tell you why should you care if you are a developer actually, and especially an Algorand developer. If you're a developer, you have been facing scenarios that involves assets. Assets are everywhere. Actually, everything that businessmen are in need of, us developers, are related more or less or somehow to the assets. Assets are in logistics, transportation, manufacturing, commerce. Everywhere you're dealing with assets. And per asset, either you can enter all of the information regarding that asset that describes that asset via a form, a traditional format that used to be running in custom format, in custom processes, and or you can do it with a QR code. You can embed all of that asset information inside the QR code, and if that asset happened to be an Algorand standard asset, so it can be all contained in one simple hashed Algorand URI which contains the information regarding that asset, or can make a transfer or transaction regarding that asset, which we will be tending to in a little bit further on this presentation. As another example that some of you might be a little bit more involving with is some sort of flow of communication between two machines or two systems using the QR codes. As you can see here in the slide, in a scenario which you can use a second factor device such as a mobile phone such as this one in order to provide some of the process, some parts of the process that you don't want to be provided by the main author of that process. Okay, that's a little bit complicated. I found it out. Let's try it this way. When you have some desktop application that is in need of some authentication or authorization by a second factor, that to be a mobile phone, actually QR codes come in handy. You can generate a QR code describing that transaction. For example, in case of the Algorand, it can be a transaction, Algorand transfer transaction, or some transaction to be signed. Not necessarily the whole transaction, signed transaction have to be communicated as a QR code. You can communicate even the raw format of that transaction via a QR code and send it from your desktop application to your mobile application and scan it. Speaking of QR code and official Algorand wallet application, one thing I have to warn you about: when you are going to test your application, including this application and the QR code usage, do not forget to put your Algorand official wallet onto the test mode. As you can see, the orange banner on the top side and the logo for the testnet have to be activated, so they inform you they are in the testnet and no actual algos are going to be transferred inside or outside of your beloved wallets. Okay, so if we continue, if I have got your attention till now, I want to list quickly some of Algorand specific usages of QR codes, and then I will come back after I describe a little bit and dig a little bit into the QR codes. I will come back to describe about every and each item on this list a little bit deeper. Okay, you can provide payment transactions, asset transaction, including opt-in transaction, closing account transaction, and asset transfer transaction. You can use it for, this is very important guys, you can use QR codes in the flow of application calls. As you know, in the mixture of application calls with other features as standard assets and atomic transfers, you actually have infinite possibilities to make new products and new features, embed everything and make them in a sequential flow and create and introduce your own new product. So how about using QR code in the middle? They can be used in the middle, and I will explain about it. Okay, about the asset information communication, as I said before, you can put all of the information regarding an asset, whether a physical asset in need of information labeling or some Algorand standard asset. You can put all of them inside the QR code and then put them to use inside your day-to-day processes. And for other usages, you can use QR codes, as I used at the beginning of my presentation, for account information or contact labeling, whatever you call it. You can communicate your contact information using QR codes, as I did. And this one, actually, I think this one that you can see on this screen contains my, Algorand wallet information. I don't give up, do I? When we go to the last but not least, usage of QR codes in Algorand ecosystem, we come across authorization. Authorization, as you know, is the most important part of Algorand processes, because that's the moment you tell Algorand system, okay, let's do it. And after that, there's no coming back, so they're important. So pay attention. You can use QR codes in your single account authorizations, multi-signature account authorizations, or even logic signature account authorization. How cool is that? It's very cool and amazing. You can use QR codes to transact or communicate your data in order to be signed in cold storage or cold wallet storages, or even offline systems. You can communicate it all with QR codes. Now, I think and I smell some excitement on you, and I think you are ready to go to the next step, and we are ready to get a little bit deeper and go see what are actually QR codes. QR codes are metrics. By metrics, I mean two-dimensional and Cartesian, actually. Descartian. Did I say Cartesian? Descartian and two-dimensional matrices containing representatives of the binary data, which be bits, zeros and ones. They are invented by a brilliant Japanese engineer named Masahiro Hara, working for a Japanese automotive engineering company named Dentsu Wave. And they were working and they were specialized in barcode technologies, hardware and software. They came across a lot of troubles and problems when using barcode technologies in mass manufacturing industries, mass commerce transactions. They always come across the same problems, and one day they say, okay, that's enough. We have to sit down and study a little bit and see what are the major flaws of the barcode, aggregate them, and come up with some design and solution to put them all aside and put them all in history once and for all. They get started, he and his bright colleagues get started and came up with some aggregations of major barcode flaws. As you can see in the presentation, the first one and the most important one, from my perspective, is low information capacity. Barcodes did carry low information capacity, which means a small number of characters, which means low amount of data, smaller amount of fields, and blah, blah, blah. So you cannot use them single-handedly and in solo, one barcode containing all of, for example, your asset information. You've got to use a lot of these barcodes. So if you are as old as I am, I'm 43 years old, you can actually remember the days that each, postal package contained at least one, two, or three barcodes explaining the content, the content of the package or the box. So that was a major problem. The second problem, actually, this problem might be the biggest one from their perspective because they named it quick response code. The slow reading response, that actually makes sense because they were using it in manufacturing processes, industrial processes. And in industrial and manufacturing processes, especially in Japan, speed, because precision is default. They don't have anything such as error, as you can see. So speed is speed is what matters to them. When you do something wrong, all they have to say is do it till you get it, and now go do it. Nothing else. So the only thing that happens is slowing down the process. So they call it quick response code. So for other problems that the good old barcodes did carry was they didn't have any sort of resistance toward the rotation, changing the position of the barcode label. They didn't have any resistance toward that. So if you are again as old as I am or older than I am, you can remember long lines behind, the counters in big malls, and you were witnessing the operator of the cashier were changing the direction of these barcodes, all over the place in order to get the correct reading out of that good old barcode. So many of you could remember those problems. And the final one is that the barcodes do not have any mechanism in place, any solution in place in order to resist damage. And this happens to be happening a lot, especially with the logistics, transportation, postal packages. They all go through physical processes, differentiation, separation, everything. And during those processes, what is more probable than anything else? Let me think. Damage. So many of you may have been come up with this problem that a damaged barcode cannot be read by a barcode reader, and so happens the rest of the problems. So if we continue, I can tell you what did QR codes brought to the table. They brought a higher information capacity, of course. The maximum information capacity of 7,089 numeric characters is not that bad, huh? That sounds good. And they represent many different flavors of functionality and various functionalities based on types and codes. And last but not least is that they have very good error correction mechanisms in place that you can use in order to reduce the amount of error imposed by malformity of the optical malformity or the rotation or the physical damage that the QR code has been enduring. So QR codes are bringing a lot to the table. Some usage scenarios of the QR codes, as you can see, there's a lot. Transportation, logistics, Internet of Things, tourism, e-economy, e-health, and e-commerce. and security, above all of them, I can tell you. And let me give you a simple one-sentence explanation about every and each one of them. During e-commerce and by e-commerce, QR codes can be used to communicate information by parties involving in contracts. For e-health, QR codes can contain information regarding patients or pharmaceutical history of the patients or the current drug or pharmaceutical item that the patient have to be prescribed with. In e-economy, Barcodes does a lot of things recently. Actually, you have been working with them all over the place. You've been paying for everything with barcodes. They're being used, and this is a common area between e-commerce and e-economy. Actually, the labeling of transactions and using barcodes for labeling this communication of transactional and economic transactions is one of the major usages, and actually one of the most famous usages you have come across with. In tourism, QR codes are used to communicate navigational and general information regarding places and the sites, and everywhere that tourists go, they can use QR codes all over the place in order to get the information they needed the most. And regarding the transportation and logistics and everything asset related, barcodes are used, QR codes exactly. Sorry again. QR codes are used. Actually, barcodes are used as well, because we use them in place, currently in place, and they are kicking and alive actually. By my problem comes with practicing a lot, shifting a lot between barcode and QR code. This problem was from the beginning, so sorry about that. Regarding machine to machine interface, you can actually, this is very amazing, guys. You can actually make two machines given one mobile phone and one desktop, or two mobile phones, or one industrial scanner and one mobile phone, etc., etc., etc. You can make these two machines actually communicate to each other or involve in a conversation, a physical, real conversation with each other using these QR codes in place, and it can be very fast. As I told you, QR codes are designed to be used in industries and manufacturing processes where everything happens very quickly in a fraction of time. And even in their initial presentations, Masahiro Hara and his bright colleagues presented QR code usage in very fast rails of industrial items going fast on the rail, and the QR code scanner was scanning them very fast and efficiently actually. So you can use them in a lot of things. That's what I'm trying to say desperately. Okay, after I consider you convinced about the vast amount of usage and usage scenarios regarding QR codes. And one more thing, one little tip about the security authentication. Many of the major software and services vendors, including WhatsApp, Skype, Google accounts, they are turning into QR codes in order to provide the authentication, access, and authorization mechanism in place, because they can be done, in multiple fashion ways. They can be done offline, they can be done on social communication, they can be done online and in interactive way, or they can be done in totally isolated way between two scanners. As I told you, I don't bother you with that anymore. Here, I want to share a little bit information about different types and models of QR codes, because it's important to know about that. It's totally business related, because if you're a developer and probably you're going to use QR codes in your commercial software and solutions, you will face the patent problems, the boundaries, the proprietorial problems, that license problems, every such that problems that you may face as a developer who wants to create some commercial service. Here is the information that you have to be aware of. Only Model 1 and 2, the original models invented by Wave and open source by Wave, are totally free of any patent bond and any license, and you can use them as you will. So be careful about that, because there are a little bit of business and legal problems, they call it. Okay, legal problems, they can come for you if you don't use the open source software. So use only model 1 and 2, and you are totally guarded and safe. Speaking of Model 1 and 2, Model 1 actually was the initial idea. The original creation of the QR code was Model 1. Masahiro Harai and his colleague created it. So we can consider it a draft of idea or a prototype idea, because it contained a limited amount of information and no error correction mechanisms in place. Model 2 is the actual thing. What we are using today is actual extensions and modifications of the Model 2. And Model 2 has higher information capacity, error correction mechanisms in place, and a lot of flavors coming. I will explain to you a little bit further. A lot of flavors coming from the ability to mask some information right onto your QR code. So continue with me to see how can it all be done. If you're a non-developer and you want to use the QR codes, all you have to do is scan this QR code over here. It will bring you to the web form, which is part of this library that I've created. It's a simple demo. It's a simple web form, nothing complex about it. But it uses the library behind the scene in order to create the QR code based on the configurations you enter the web form. As you can see them over here, I will tend to it when I explain right over the code. I will tend to it live with live code, and I will explain about this. All you have to care about is that you scan this, go to this web form, fill out the options about the transaction amounts, the note you want to put in your transaction, and everything regarding that barcode, appearance and style, color, light color, dark color, and then your QR code, bam, is generated and ready to be used by you everywhere you see fit. You can save it as an image, send it over email, or you can, copy and paste it in other tabs and other browser windows. So how can actually Algorand developers use this? The library, actually, Algorand QR code library, is written in JavaScript, so it can be run in every environment that is capable of running JavaScript. That includes the command line interface, the Node.js environments, and the browser environments, which you can use the Algorand QR code library in all of them, and create amazing QR codes. You can actually embed this library or the portions of code regarding that library, as I will be explaining a little bit further on the live code. You can use the whole library or the portions of it in order to create new amazing features and solutions over Algorand ecosystem. How can you use it? If you want to use it in your command line interface or your local Node.js project, all you have to do is install it locally with the npm install --save command, or you can go to your you can install it globally actually with npm install -g, or you can run the build command with your npm and make the compiled module ready for browser, and you can use it by attaching it as a script to your web page and use it as a global object across all the global objects in your window and your web document actually. Next slide shows a glimpse of how can you use the Algorand QR code library inside your command line interface. As I told you, all you have to do is to go to your bin directory or folder and run the command not QR code, accompanied with all of the options and parameters you want to put in your QR code. There has been a long list of this configuration available on the GitHub repository, and if you refer to the GitHub repository, the links are available in this presentation at the end of the presentation. If you go to the GitHub repository, you can find the the actual demos, documentation, different configuration that you can put in use in order to make the perfect usage of this library inside your command line interface or amazing projects that you're working on. So the next one is usage in web. As I told you, is the web form. You can use it in the web form. And the third one is the usage in the Node.js environments. As an example, I've just took the liberty of creating some API servers using the Express.js and some static servers that are demoing somehow the ways that you can put in use this little library to create some amazing things in your big projects. Here, as you can see, all of the options are passed along the command of generation as a route, as an Express.js route, and the route is actually /generate, and you can find it inside the code. Is actually a very simple file named API-server inside the examples folder. And you can pass along all the options, as you can see here. The label option, the Xnote option, and the wallet option are passed as query strings, and inside the query, the URL queries actually. You can pass them along, and you will have the generated QR code rendered for you and sent over by the server as a ready-to-be-used image. And the type of the image can be actually specified as an option. And for amount of the option, regarding the options, you can use video implementations. You can again refer to my GitHub repository. There are long list of options, and how can you use this library? And as I will be demoing inside the live code in a little bit further. So let's get started with using Algo and QR code library inside your development environment. For starters, we start with simplest environment, which is command line interface. All you have to do is clone the GitHub repository of Algo and QR code, and then inside the directory, go to the directory, including the GitHub repository, and run the command npm run build in order to build the library. And as you can see, I've already done this because it takes a little bit of time. And right after that, go to the directory, bin directory. And over bin directory, you can run the command not QR code accompanied with the switches, the command line switches, as well as you can use the small switches, or you can use the long switches. For example, the small switch for wallet destination is -d, and the long switch for that is --dest. So you can use either of them or in combination, as you like. And here I will demonstrate to use with short keys. And let me copy my accounts. Okay, I have made it available here in my OneNote. Here is the wallet address you want to create a QR code addressing to. And so from this point on, the parameters and options you specify can actually specify the nature of the QR codes being generated. For example, at the time being, the only options are the payment transaction and contact information label. For which you can, for example, for a contact information label, you can have the -L switch, which contains which will tell the system to put the option label along with the option wallet address, which is the -D option, into the generated QR code. So I use my email address, emg110@gmail.com. Okay, and then let's see how that QR code is generated. Simply as that. That's generated. And if you want to generate a smaller QR code, as you can, refer to the configurations on the GitHub repository. If you refer to that, you can find very, very detailed specification of the options you can put in use in command line interface, or Node.js environments, or in the browser environments. And here -P switch tells the system to create a smaller version of that QR code, which has been created here. And if I use my wallet here, one second, I use my official Algorand wallet, and here as it is. Again, put your Algorand wallets in developer mode with the yellow band over the top. And if I use the QR code scanner over this, as you can see, the small button right over here. And if I use this and go to the QR code scanner, it's scanned immediately with my email and my wallet address inside it. So it's as simple as that. Inside the command line interface, I don't take much further time of you explaining that and go straightly into the code. As you can see, the code to the library is rather simple. There are several modules, every and each responsible for one of the environments that we have mentioned before. You can see the browser here, which is responsible for making the module available for browsers, and the index.js, which is for using inside the Node.js environment, and this QR code.js inside the bin directory is responsible for making it available throughout the command line interface. So if you want to, let me go with a usage scenario. So if you prepare the library for usage in the web, for example, this is a simple demo usage that you can put in use the library. This is a very simple form. As you can see, it has been it's running offline from the file system here. No web servers involved. So you will have your form. You can fill it with your wallet address, label if you want to have a label involved, or if the amount is set, the label is disregarded automatically by the library. You can fill out the amount. For example, I put here 10 algos. I want to send 10 algos, and here again the alert about the testnet, and you can put any note you want to be set inside your QR code, and you are set to go. The rest are the versioning, types, and styling information regarding the QR code, and the QR code is generated, as simple as that. And the accompanying Algorand URI is printed out here for you to read and make sure everything is correct and in place. And two things I have to mention here. One about the amounts field. As you can see, I've highlighted it over here. The amount is automatically converted into microalgos because in payment transactions and transfers in Algorand ecosystem, everything regarding algo and amount of algos has to be expressed in microalgos, which means every amount you want to represent your amount of algos in have to be multiplied by 1 million, because every algo is equal to 1 million microalgos. So the amount is in microalgos, and the rest of the things, as you can see, the message have been encoded into RFC encoding in order to match the necessities of the Algorand ecosystem, as been specified by the payment prompts specification on Algorand developers' websites. You can refer to that. The link is available on the GitHub repository as well. Everything actually you need regarding that library is available on the GitHub README, so you can refer to that. It's available. And here, some of the options you can put in use in creating the QR code here are the coloring. You can change the coloring as you can see fit. Here I change the coloring, and the resulted library QR code is rendered different with the color that I have specified. And again, if I scan this, you can see this coloring, unless the coloring comes in very, very, very small differentiations of contrast, which makes it very hard for QR code readers to read it precisely, because as I told you, the expression and representation of binary and zeros and one comes in the contrast of dark and light pixels being filled up inside that two-dimensional matrix. So do not set the colors into close contrast. Use very, very different colors and contrasts of color. And here again, I will try to scan this barcode. And as you can see, because I used the wrong contrast, this is a very good example. This is the wrong contrast of color to be used for QR code scanner in Algorand official wallet. And I will change it to a high contrast and see what happens. Now it's immediately read by the barcode scanner. So you see, this is correct about the high contrast selection of colors in order to make sound QR codes and fast to read QR codes. Okay, that's it for the web form and the generator on the web form. For those of you Algorand developers who are going to use only portions of Algorand QR code library inside your own development projects, all you need to care about is how to construct Algorand URI, because this is the most important part of the process. Algorand URI or Universal Resource Identifier is responsible for that piece of information regarding the transaction or application call or assets of Algorand that you're going to transform and convert into a QR code and use inside your development environments or operational environments. So creating and constructing, as you can see in the code, creating and constructing a validation of the fields, for example, the amount field, the wallet address to be valid, the node address, not containing any more hazardous characters, and the overall validation process has to be made during this construction of the URI, and this is the most important part of the code. There's not much other things to see in the code because it's a very simple code. And without further ado, let's go to the usage of Algorand QR code inside dApps, decentralized apps, and inside the processes regarding decentralized apps. As you can see here, I took the liberty of creating a React instance of the generator form, the QR generator form. Here is the simple generator form on the first tab. As you can see, I will put these on the GitHub as well. Don't worry, you will have the React demo as well as the code for that React web form generator, web QR generator form. And here, if you click on the asset QR code, the app example, you will see the form for an Algorand standard asset here. I took the liberty of creating that asset before. And right after you create the QR code for that asset, you will see that the system will summon the information regarding that asset from Algorand Algo Explorer Developer API, which is a product from Rand Labs. Rand Labs is a very smart company creating amazing features and products over Algorand ecosystem. And this is one of their products, Algo Explorer. This is the main blockchain explorer of Algorand, and they also offer an API which can be used to provide all of the Algorand blockchain important functionalities without having to install a node of Algorand on your local system. So I totally recommend for those of you developers who want to give it a try, give it a spin test, go ahead and use Algorand, the Algo Explorer Development API. And you can do actually all of the sorts of things you do with your local Algorand node. You can do it with Algo Explorer API as well. Here in this example, we are using another product of Rand Labs as well, which is MyAlgo and MyAlgo Connect. The famous Algorand wallet, MyAlgo, is a very nice wallet doing amazing features. And the Wallet Connect is a bridge module which provides the bridging functionality between your decentralized apps or web applications with your MyAlgo wallet in a secure and reliable way. So we are using both of those functionalities today in order to demonstrate an opt-in functionality right based on reading a QR code. So if I click the opt-in here, the MyAlgo Connect interface activates and try to bridges to my MyAlgo wallet and tells me and reads my code, reads the generated QR code over the image here. If I shift aside this panel, you can see the QR code is generated, and my code behind the scene reads the content of imagery content of these QR codes and takes the transaction which is embedded in this QR code here coming from this form and sends it to MyAlgo in order to sign it. So if everything goes okay, we should have And here it is, opted in, signed transaction, ready to be signed transaction with my asset, with the asset I already told you about, and it's ready to be opted in. And all you need to do is to confirm with your password, and you continue the my algo. This simply you can have your opt-in operations with your QR code, with reading of your QR code. I don't know why doesn't it proceed. Okay, it proceeds. It takes time a little bit. So it proceeds, and you have your asset opted in. And if I go to my wallet, right now, because I have the official wallet and I have this account on my official wallet here. And here, as you can see, I have opted in the first row. I have opted in into dev hours asset, and it is on my every wallet all over the planet, no matter where I am. It is done in a fraction of the seconds. The transaction actually takes only less than a second, but the web applications and the amount of the demonstration things I've been running on my PC makes it a little bit slower for the application and connection bridge to kick in and do the things. Okay, guys, I think that's it, because it was a very simple contribution, very simple initial step, and I wish I come in the future. I come to this show again with much more sophisticated and much more complicated products and contributions. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for participating in this episode of Algo and Developers Office Hours. And back to you, Ryan. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Mohammed. That was really insightful content that you provided. Thanks very much for introducing us to your Algorand QR code library and giving us a walkthrough. Here you've given us lots of great links. Focus on this GitHub link over here. That links over to the demo app, the one where you can generate on the fly those QR codes, as well as scan this article here, and you'll be able to read through just a quick overview of what is in the QR code library, as well as at the bottom of that article is a QR code that links then back to the presentation, all the content slides that you saw in the presentation today. Well, once again, Mohammed, thanks very much for joining us here on Algorand Developer Office Hours. We look forward to building on Algorand using your library. Thanks so much.